Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home. It's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the fields alone. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Okay, thanks so much for joining me here today on the broadcast. I'm your host, James White, and I'm here with the crew from a couple of days ago. Here, let's bring them all on the screen here. We have Dave vonKleist, Kelli Higgins, and Jason Q Janiszewski. We're so delighted that you're joining us here today. Let me turn everybody's microphone on, and Jason, let me turn on your speaker here, your microphone. There we go, and we should be all set to go. We appreciate you joining us here today on the broadcast. It's the 11th day of January 2021, and we're delighted that we could all come together here and speak to you today. Hello, everyone. Do you want to just go around and say hello to the folks?
Hi, everybody. Dave vonKleist here.
Hi, everyone. Kelli Higgins.
Hi, everyone. JQ here.
Okay, so we appreciate everybody joining us here today on the broadcast. The video that we did the other day, it seemed like a lot of people liked it. We appreciate all the people that tuned into it on multiple platforms, and we're just going to try to. Moving forward, I think the goal of all of the goals of everyone here is just to bring forth truth the best we can. And you know something, like I said on my show earlier, you guys, that's one of the most difficult things right now that I'm finding is actually, determining what is truth and what is fake news and what is disinformation. It's like no other time that I've ever seen before. Kelli, what say you?
Oh, absolutely. I had a friend message me today saying Trump's been arrested, and I just couldn't help but laugh at it.
Yeah.
There's a text going around that says Trump has been arrested. Click here, and you don't want to go there because it's a nasty virus.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Jason?
I'm not fortunate enough to get an email like that because I pretty much have my face buried in other things, like documents and books, and so nobody really messes with me too much.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're fortunate. Well, they're messing with Trump, and they're messing with a lot of conservatives. They've kicked Trump, of course, off most all social media platforms. They've also prohibited his ability to really fundraise. They've cut off his financials, and now they have turned off Parler, and they have just killed the voice of numerous conservatives, really, and now they want to lock us down. It doesn't sound to me like they want us to talk too much, Dave. It sounds like they want to keep us apart.
Well, I've been watching this for over a quarter century now, and with all the talk about us having the emergency broadcast system kick in there, I've got a bottle of champagne, and Kelly's got one too. And when the EBS kicks in, and I think it has to, with all the propaganda machines that we've got running, all of the alphabet news networks, you got CNN, you got Fox, they're all pumping out just obscene propaganda. And the hypocrisy, the stench of hypocrisy is curling my nose hairs. And I said 25 years ago that the mainstream press has to be shut down. So what's going on right now with them shutting down Parler and cutting Trump off of all the social platforms, what goes around comes around, guys. They're going to shut everybody down. Well, guess what? If President Trump turns on the emergency broadcast system, everything will go dark, and it has to. And I think that the way that would have to happen is that they would have to simultaneously shut off all the networks, the main hubs for information. You got Washington, D.C., you got New York, you got Chicago, you got L.A. These are where the big headquarters for the networks are. They would have to go in there simultaneously to CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, Fox, you name it, and they'd have to go in simultaneously and clean house. Take these, the news directors out, the editors, the people who are at the top. Most of the reporters, they don't know what's going on. There's something called the Rip Reed School of Broadcasting, and that's back in the old days before we had internet and all that stuff. You had your AP wire machine, the ticker thing that would go tick, 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 and you'd always hear the news music going dun 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 dun, and that's supposed to represent the AP newswire. So the Rip Reed School of Broadcasting is when a broadcaster goes up to the machine and rips off the story, and then you read it on the air.
Right.
There's no research gone into it, and this is the same standard operating procedure that goes on with all the network and the affiliate stations. They all get their news stories from the main network headquarters. And we've all seen the videos where they're repeating verbatim, word for word, on all the stations about one particular story. And this is how they work it. So when the emergency broadcast system kicks in, and I don't see that it can't, it has to, because they have to shut down the propaganda machines. And of course, this may not happen tomorrow, or I feel it's going to happen sometime very soon. And that's going to shock the hell out of a lot of people, especially when they start running a 6 or an 8-hour video loop explaining to the American people with documentation and possibly with video confessions of some very prominent people. This is going to shock America and the world. I mean, what's going on right now is of biblical proportions. People don't realize it. This is a battle between good and evil, between light and darkness. There's no other way to describe it. And this is no psyop, folks. A lot of people, the Q stuff is all psyop, and all this stuff is psyop. No, it's not. This is happening, folks.
Well, Taylor, let's do this. Let's play this video that we have here. This very new video, I believe here. I think it's Trump's team released this video. So let's play this if we can here, and then we'll come back and we'll comment on it. Let's pop over here. This should work fine here. Here we go. There we go.
The time for excuses is over. Now is the time for strength. If you want peace, you must stand strong at all times. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. Today, you end one chapter, but you are about to begin the greatest adventure of your life. January 20 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. If the righteous many do not confront the wicked few, then evil will triumph. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. Now we are calling for a great reawakening. When decent people and nations become bystanders to history, the forces of destruction only gather power and strength. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. Do not underestimate us and do not try us. This would be a fatal miscalculation.
Is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. There should be no fear. We are protected. We will be protected by God. I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth, will be a warrior for our country and for your family. I know that each of you will do what is right, not what is the easy way. Our answer will be a rebirth of devotion to defeat the enemies of humanity.
This is a very different administration than the United States has had in the past.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Good stuff. That's good
Man.
stuff for sure. No doubt about that. And something popped up during that video I want to ask you all about. They showed Pence, quick shot of Pence, and then Trump, Pence. What's your thoughts here? Just go around the room. What's your thoughts? Is Pence just playing a part in all of it? Is Pence a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he just did he get overtaken by the dark side? What's your thoughts? Kelly?
Oh, of course. I think Pence was a bad player at the beginning. I think he had his role. I think he did what Trump wanted him to do, which was, of course, make the executive branch do exactly what they needed to do, pulling their hand again out of the cookie jar and allowing the electoral process to proceed in the manner that it did last week. But I think he played his part, but I think his part's done.
Jason, what say you?
Pence wasn't even President Trump's pick. He actually had another pick, but the powers that be, of course, said that either you take Pence or you don't get the presidency. Now the coup was already enacted. The military coup was already enacted. They already took Obama out of office. General Dunford took over as the interim president of the United States. But since he was still active, that's when they used Paul Ryan. They moved Paul Ryan in as the puppet president, and then Dunford kept the tight leash on him, because you can't have an active general, you can't have an active serviceman actually as president, because we'd be a military state.
Dave, what's your thoughts
Now
on Pence?
with Pence,
sorry about that, Jason.
No, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Well, with Pence, because I'm from Indiana, Pence was dirty from the get-go. I mean, he was child trafficking, human trafficking, everything. So they pretty much took him out early, used Bridge 1 and 2, brought in the clone, and there you have it. Hive-minded, used by the military intelligence brigades, because we ended up with the same special access programs after 9/11 as everyone else.
Mm-hmm. I want to say that the events that are unfolding right now are the result of some very, very deep planning. It's diabolical. I mean, this is more diabolical than a Tom Clancy novel. And there are going to be twists and turns. I mean, look at what happened with Bob Barr. You know, everybody thought that he was going to come forward with this, but he never did. We're still waiting for the Durham report, and then it comes out. People are saying that Bob Barr was a bad guy.
You mean William Barr?
Bill Barr.
I'm sorry, Bill Barr.
Yeah.
What did I say, Bob Barr? Sorry about that.
That's right.
There is a Bob Barr. There's a Bob Barr. I make that mistake all the time.
Yeah, but anyway, the point is that we've been told that this is a good guy, and then he's a bad guy, and then we find out, well, gosh, maybe he was a good guy again. So we want to be really careful, because there are still several twists and turns as this plot unfolds. So the jury's still out in my mind, because I've made that mistake where I come to a conclusion and then find out, oh, guess what, I was wrong. And there's nothing wrong with being wrong. I mean, it's a learning experience. But I think that there are still some very serious twists and turns that we're going to see, and everybody's going to have their mind blown. Not just the liberal Democrats, but a lot of the conservative Republicans too. So, let's just be very cautious in the information that's coming out. And this is why we're doing these programs, so we can weed through some of the subterfuge.
I was talking to Ammon Bundy this morning. I wanted to give Ammon a call, because I know he's got a network of folks across the country with his group. And, we really came to the determination that the most difficult thing right now to do is to find out what the true information is. And also we determined that, it's probably not going to end any way that we think it's going to end. We can, in our mind, make it up and think what we're, it's going to, certain elements are probably going to be, the way that we think they would have to be, of course, legally. But I got to believe there's going to be, like you said, David, some twists and turns. And when it's all said and done and the smoke clears, I mean, it's a reality show. I mean, we literally are living in a real life reality show. I mean, I really think so.
What a ride.
What a ride.
White knuckles.
White knuckle ride. So, what have you guys heard here? I've heard a couple of things, like from multiple sources, that There's been the Trump signed the Insurrection Act apparently at 12/18, not last night, but the night before. Of course, we know what we can see. We can see the troops that seem to be being deployed there to Washington, D.C. for a virtual inauguration. They need all these troops for a virtual inauguration when they're not even going to really, I think, even have people there now, right? Okay. So that made me a little bit confused. We also see that the Vatican did go out of power. We saw some reports that the Pope was arrested, but the source, I wasn't exactly too thrilled with it, and I only found one source. So that's what I'm hearing right now, that they're, I've also heard that Nancy Pelosi got arrested. I've heard that Lindsey Graham got arrested. I haven't been able to determine any of that stuff being factual.
Adam Schiff.
Right. I didn't even hear Adam Schiff. So let's go around if you can here. Let's start with you, Jason. What have you heard? What's your update? Any of the things that I've just said? Have you heard some similar things? Can you debunk any of that? Can you add to any of that? What's your intel revealing right now?
Well, so far I've heard Pakistan, Iran, the Vatican, and around the Vatican they actually closed off all the roads as well. So nobody's going in or out. I mean, they pretty much had it on lockdown. Because a lot of people don't understand is that the Vatican is actually guarded by the Swiss Guard.
Yep.
No Italians at all. It's all by the Swiss Guard. And also Venezuela. So you have all those power players there. What do they all have in common? Just one 3-letter agency run by the Jesuits, the CIA. They're going after them. They're going after all their black sites, and they're the ones instigating all these nonsensical wars, just for a game.
So you're thinking that what you're hearing as far as like the Vatican being shut down, are you hearing anything about the Pope actually being arrested? I mean, I've heard on 80 counts of child trafficking, and I got to believe that's just, last month. I mean, I got to believe there's way more than that.
Yeah. They came out and said that the library in the Vatican holds the most child pornographic and pedophilia tapes and pictures ever seen. If you took all of them in the world and combined them, you still wouldn't have as much as the Vatican.
Probably for blackmail material, Kelly, what are you hearing? Anything similar to what we're hearing here?
Yeah, I heard a portion of Berlin lost some power as well. I heard the Pakistan lost power because there was a deal between the Chinese and General Electric to be bought for around $5.4 billion, and they intercepted that supposedly off Pelosi's laptop. I also had a couple different. I've seen an affidavit. I've seen a picture of Pompeo with arresting the Italian president, and I heard one of their top generals is going down too, that were participants.
And just to jump in there, you mentioned that GE was working a deal to be sold to the Chinese. General Electric, to the best of my knowledge, is like the number 5 defense contractor. So I mean, I think everybody can see the threat to national security. If the Chinese bought General Electric, and General Electric is still doing business with the Pentagon, I don't think you have to be a brain surgeon to figure out what the problem is with that.
No, and Simon Parks made a good point on that too. If they were running the engines that are in some of the fighter pilots, if you have the same kind of engine mechanisms,
right,
that you're fighting against another country with, that's not going to go over well.
No,
right on.
Well, and General Electric, there's a big thing about that is that they actually made the uninterruptible autopilot switches for the planes for 9/11. As well. So when they were up in the air, as soon as they put it on autopilot, guess what? Everything's controlled from the ground. They couldn't switch back. So,
and it's not
when
crazy.
That all comes out. Yeah,
that's not crazy. Operation Northwoods. They were going to do that back in, was it the late 60s? They were going to remote control a plane and dupe the public to be able to start a war. This whole thing with listen, folks, killing a whole group of people for them to further their cause is not something that they're afraid to do. Not even doesn't even bother them.
It's collateral damage.
Exactly. We're not entities to these folks. I mean, we're cattle. We're numbers. So, I mean, I'm just telling you. Sadly, it's true. Okay, I tell you what. We got another video up here, David. You want to set this up here? We're starting to hear. This is And We Know, which he's got a great channel. A lot of followers. Puts out a lot of good information. What are we going to see here, David?
Well, basically, the networks over the past weekend on Face the Nation, et cetera, I mean, they are absolutely relentless in their attacks on Trump. They're saying that this was the events last Wednesday in Washington, D.C. were acts of domestic terrorism. And yes, there were several people who died or reportedly had died. And they're just going after Trump, and they're saying that this is just horrendous, that this is violence, and that he's got to stop the violence. Folks, this is all that they have been promoting all for the past 4 years, is to attack Trump and the supporters. And when AOC said a couple of weeks ago, you know, when the election's over, you got to hunt them down. I mean, they want to come after conservatives. Anybody that supported Trump in any way, or shall I say anyone who didn't support them, has to be hunted down. And now they're saying, oh, well, President-elect Biden's going to come in and we want to heal everything and we're going to learn to exist and we have to get along and all this. Yeah, that's not going to happen. And this is why. Go ahead and run the clip. You want to see some hypocrisy here.
Run this clip. Here we go. Here we go. This should be it right there.
Crowd of this size. Crowds 1/20th this size devastated cities this summer, and not a peep from Democrats, which leads me back to Cauldron with this amazing video as a reminder of how they treat us.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have
There's your
thought
tolerant left.
an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
See, all of that is acceptable behavior if you're a liberal Democrat. Now, like I said, this is why I said earlier, the hypocrisy is, the stench curls my nose hairs. Now, I'm not saying that once Trump gets back in for his second term, that conservatives need to go and do that to the Democrats. I said this the other day. Conservatives don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to hurt anybody. We're offering an open hand and not a clenched fist. The conservatives simply want to educate and wake up the left to what's been going on. As a result, the left wants to kill the conservatives for disturbing their slumber. That's where we're at right now. And unfortunately, the liberal left is going to be in for a very serious wake-up call. It's going to be a difficult process for them. And this is why we have to be the ones that, again, are offering the open hand. Because that's the only way that this country will come back together, is with truth and with compassion.
Love.
Yeah, and love. Thank you.
Well, I think that there's going to be some, I think my view is if there's a release, which I believe there's going to be, of the revelation that the whole COVID thing was all a really an event manufactured to be able to keep people inside, to keep to get the mail-in ballots, because they had this whole plan about duping the ballots, and they had that all laid out for a long time, I believe.
Yeah, General McInerney. McInerney?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, McInerney. Yeah, he mentioned that in the White House a couple days ago. And the COVID-19 issue, this whole pandemic thing, is inescapably linked to the Chinese and the Democrats. And now this is all starting to come to the surface. And when America and the world find out why we've had this global pandemic, not going to be very happy.
Well, but the bigger point, I think, is, and Kelly, I'd like to have you comment on this, the bigger point is that we're all seemingly captured. I mean, you look how many people still, even in Kalispell, which is pretty much bucked things more than most places, you still walk into some of the grocery stores and people are still masked up, even though, as I stated in my earlier broadcast, it says right on the side of the box that it doesn't stop against COVID. It's almost like there's and I think they've been able to override facts and replace it with like what your neighbor thinks about you to control you, right? It's like that's more important than actual facts, is your social standing or your circle of friends or the pressure that seemingly is put upon you if you don't conform. You get where I'm coming from with that?
Oh, absolutely. I've been told I was ignorant for not wanting to wear a mask. I'll just be honest about that. And when you have to look into the health part, they put on a mask, social distance. That's been their playbook the whole entire time. Well, all the doctors are still coming against that. No, you just need to build your immune system. But when even you look at the death toll numbers, compare 2019 to 2020. I can't remember the last time I looked at it, but 2020 was less than 2019. Well, if we are in a pandemic, we'll talk about pan later. But if we're in a pandemic, you'd think that the numbers would be extremely elevated compared to the year before, even with everything that Trump did to try and restrain the whole situation. But no, the numbers are construed, and when you read what it says on the mask, if you actually put something in your mouth and blow it through a mask, it all comes through. If you think that the size of a virus is big enough to be withheld from a paper or cotton or whatever kind of mask that you think you're putting out there, it's not. The micron size of a virus compared to the size of the holes in the mask is absolutely irrefutable. It goes right through. You're not doing anything. The gloom and doom and I call it fear porn that was instilled on everybody to have to abide by this, to make you fear the person that's next to you. That's another way of segregating us. Anything that segregates the people from being able to socialize with each other, to talk, to be able to express emotion and love between each other, that's been instilled as something you should be fearful of doing. And you should not. Love your neighbors, love your family, hug, kiss. It is what it is. The thing that it is sad. I understand people have died from what they have stated was COVID related. You also have people that have died in motorcycle accidents that they said tested positive, that they listed as COVID death. It's blatantly obvious. There's also insurance fraud involved that a lot of people don't think about. There's so many different things and aspects that are not being taken into account here. And just that feeding the fear is ridiculous. I can't tell you how many times I see people driving around by themselves in their car and they have a mask on. What good is that doing you? You're just sitting there breathing the things that your body's trying to expect from your body, which are bad for you, but you're sitting here and you're continuing to rebreathe it. That's why the pneumonia is up, Legionnaire's disease, staph infections in the face. Those things are because you're continuing to take in the same bacteria that your body is trying to get rid of. And you have to think about those things. But just because the media told them the gloom and the doom and what you need to do, anything outside that realm is irrelevant. Well,
I saw someone actually riding a motorbike with a mask on, riding a motorcycle with a mask on. Because there's a helmet laws here. You don't have to have a helmet law. You don't have to have a helmet. You're not wearing a helmet when you're wearing a mask. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Jason, what's it going to take? Is it going to take some sort of a shock? Some sort of a shocking? I mean, people are in a spell. They're under a spell. They literally are almost like they're under a spell. And it's been crafted by the education system. It's been perpetuated by the mainstream media. What's it going to take to break the average person that doesn't understand hasn't been red pilled. What's it going to take to break them out of that? Just to, how you try to, you've seen the person on TV, they go hysterical and someone comes across and slaps them in the face and it wakes them up a little bit and kind of gets them back into the here and now. What's going to be the slap in the face to the average person, Jason, to get these people awake?
You know what? It's got to be one of the hardest questions I've had to answer. So the sad part is that the World Health Organization and all these other organizations have come out and said that the masks don't work. That, this whole pandemic, we have the documents. We have what this is all about. They were trying to kill us all.
Yep.
Obama's in on it, all of them. And I mean, we have documents upon, we even have from the French, from the COVID-19 pandemic and its relationship to SARS-CoV-2 and other factors by the French Reserve Army officers. We have everything. We really do. Even the World Health Organization talk about their vaccines, how they make them, they create them in developing countries. These vaccines are no good. They're not. They're proven and dangerous. We really do have it all. All we have to do is just sit down and actually just forget everything that we learned and just go right at it. And then tell the people the truth. And if they want, and if they need to see the proof, we have all the proof for it. They need to wake up and stop letting other people hijack their vehicle. Stop letting other people make their decisions for them. Now, Bean and I are working for 21 years. I've been on lead jobs and everything, so we've had to shave our face for our fit test. We had to take pulmonary fit tests for our half-face respirators, and those can stop a virus. These paper masks don't stop anything. They don't even stop smoke. You see people cutting holes in it with a cigarette out. I'm like, or with a big beard, and they put a mask on. I'm like, yeah, this has got to stop. People have just.
It's mad.
I really thought that humans were a little bit smarter than this, but boy, is I wrong.
My favorite is when you go into like a restaurant, you have to put a mask on to walk through, and then you sit down, and then you can take it off because the virus is there at 6 foot, but it's not down there at like 4.
Oh, and then of course at 10 o'clock in the evening, the virus just goes away. That's when the virus comes out. So they're having early shutdowns for restaurants and taverns and bars. They used to stay open until 1 or 2 o'clock, but no, they got to close it up by 10 now because that's when the boogeyman virus comes out.
Well, I'm thinking that Trump's going to be talking here. I think he's supposed to be talking here just in not very long from now. In what is it going to be, about 58 minutes, I suppose. What do you think? I'm thinking that he may be announcing that he has enacted the Insurrection Act. I don't know. It's all speculation at this point. That's what I'm thinking he probably is going to be doing, or he's signed a whole lot of executive orders. Maybe he's implementing other ones as well. You guys have any thoughts on what you think this interview is with, or this conference with Trump is, the speech he's going to be giving?
Every time you think he's going to come out with something, it ends up being something else. So we can
true.
all speculate all we want, but the man is a mystery, and it's amazing, and I love it.
Yeah. And you know what he does too is he always shows up late and always has people waiting for him and anticipating him. I was watching a video where he was when he visited when he went over to Europe and all abroad right after he got inaugurated a couple months afterwards, and he had all these meetings with these world leaders, and he'd always show up 20-30 minutes late, one time up to an hour late. And I guess there's probably it's probably showing him he's the boss, I would suspect. But he certainly is. He's a man of suspense. So, do you guys? I think he's got my thoughts on this, and people may disagree. I think if you look at the Sun Tzu tactics that he employs, I think it's like the battle's already won before you actually even start it. He said he won the battle before he started it. David, do you think that he's won the battle before it started? Do you think he's had a lot of these things in place? I know it's a military operation. You were back in the meeting many years ago. So this is not happenstance. This just didn't fall in place. Wasn't an accident. You think he's defeated the enemy before he started fighting him?
Well, it's hard to say, isn't it? Yes, I know that this has been an ongoing effort for several decades to overcome the cabal, if you will. The New World Order, the globalists, what have you. But the fat lady is not quite yet at the podium yet. I'm waiting for her to start singing. And but I'll tell you, I think once she starts singing, we're all going to love the song.
Well, and I love that, analogy. The thing I'm thinking is the fat lady already sang at his inauguration speech. He said flat out, he's giving the country back to we, the people. This is an administration that has been completely different from any administration that any of us in our lifetimes. And the things coming down the pipeline, this man is a man of his word. He is going to give this country back to us.
I think so too. I mean, and people say, "Oh, that's hopium." You hear that Trump's part of the cabal and Trump's part of the system. It's all a ruse. It's all a trick. It doesn't feel that way to me. Of course, there's these days, for crying out loud, nothing surprises me anymore. But I got a feeling that we're not being duped, and the reason I say that is because of the level of enemies that are coming after him, right? I mean, you can tell a lot about a person about who their enemies are. And everybody that doesn't like Trump, I don't really like them either. They're globalist scumbags as far as I'm concerned. So if you go by that measure, I think that he's a non-establishment guy. I don't think he's an establishment guy. Did you know anything, Jason? Have you heard anything about the FBI apparently? I want to say the story goes back in 2008 or 2009. He helped some of the feds on an operation. He was the only honest guy they could find to help. Do you remember that story back in 2008, 2009? Do you remember?
I know one in like 2004, 2005.
Is that what it was? Was it even before that?
Are we talking about the Epstein thing?
I think it was where they kind of went to Trump and he actually assisted the Department of Justice, I believe.
He was the only one to give an actual testimony against the whole thing when Epstein had 40 different girls that made accusations against him. Trump is the only one that stood up and actually made a deposition in regards to it. And they asked a lot of people to come forward and say something, and he's the only one that did. Well,
I'm not saying that doesn't, that just proves at least the FBI, I guess, considered him a reliable source. I don't see in that. You got to think. After $40 million and 17 investigators, you would think with his whole Mueller investigation, if there was some real dirt on him about that stuff, that would have come out, I think, during that period of time. What do you guys think on that?
Jason?
What if Mueller wasn't investigating Trump at all? What if they were actually, because the attorneys that he picked, that Mueller chose, some of them he pushed off that way, but then some of them, stayed with him, and they started investigating Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, because it all stems from the Clinton Foundation. It's all the foundation, and it's this whole huge child trafficking, using children and people as commodity, because that's all we've been known as. Because when there's too much money, what else do you have? Right. You really don't have anything. They make their money on false flags. They make their money on betting on live events that are happening. I mean, these people they're not even sick. They're pure evil. But they really are evil, because some of these people have been around for a lot longer than we realize.
Yep.
A lot longer.
So yeah, this is true. I tend to agree. When
you have President Trump here and being here and being a man of God and everything, it's like, how can you not stand behind him? I mean, he's been the most transparent president in U.S. history.
Absolutely.
He's opened up. He's told everybody the truth, and everybody just dogged him. They try to kill him. What does that tell you? If he's trying to tell you the truth, and the Democrats are trying to kill him, but yet he was a Democrat before.
Yeah.
They were all hugging him and everything like that, inviting him to parties and everything. But what changed? Well, because he's bringing down their little circle. It's not even little. I mean, this gigantic circle. But it's intergalactic. I mean, it's massive what they're doing. So by President Trump being the only one that is honest enough to come forward to give a deposition, tells me one thing, that he's the only one that wasn't blackmailed. That's number one. Number two, they could have killed him back then. Why didn't they? Because they turned around and they made Epstein an FBI informant. He was an FBI informant for 13 years. That's why they got all the videos and everything for Epstein Island. But that's not the only island. Every island, when they said they own the sea, when Ghislaine Maxwell said it, Well, those are the Etruscans. They were the ones that were actually before Romans. I mean, this goes way back to the Phoenicians,
And,
Canaanites.
and she's a submarine pilot. She's a submarine
yeah,
pilot, isn't that? Is that just a coincidence? Whoa, what a coincidence!
Yeah, Joe Biden has an island what 6 miles away from Epstein.
Yeah, right next door.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
next
yeah.
door.
Well, I think I'll just I think I'll pick up submarine pilot. Yeah, I think for 200, Chuck. We've got 3 callers that are actually on the line. Do you guys want to chat for a little bit longer? You guys want to take some calls? Get some calls coming in?
Do
whatever you want.
Okay, so here's the rules that I have. Sorry, I have to say this amongst adults, but the rules of the caller in are you don't have to agree with any one or all of us. No problem there. Just be respectful and don't be vulgar, or I'll just cut you off. So other than that, fire away. I mean, you don't have to obviously agree, like I said, and that's okay. So we'll take the first caller here, and your caller, you are live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from.
If this is me, is this me?
This is me. Hello, me.
It is I.
Hello, I'm Joseph Parham. I'm in the western part of North Carolina, and I try to keep up.
Welcome.
Very good. Thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate you being on the broadcast. Do you have a question?
Thank you.
No.
Well, all right
I'm
then.
just trying to hear
What's
the
on your
delay.
mind?
I wasn't sure I was on or not. Sorry for the confusion.
I just want to hear my own voice. It's okay. I like mine too.
You're fine. Did you have a comment? How about that? Let's go there. Do you have a comment?
Well, it is a comment. It's the most of the U.S. Inc. Incorporated is a big difference from we normal nonfiction people, not in the commercial world, not in their business world. It's a fact that all the same Law Books dictionaries, and I possess 127 from the 1600s to 2020, and they all say the same thing. They're de facto just operating, and you guys know and heard this. This is not some kind of huge conspiracy. I'm not a theorist, but what it is a coincidence. It is them, and they know willingly, and they are instituting this willingly against and across the nation.
No denying that. There's no mistake. They're doing it willingly. They are, really bringing us into servitude under their rule. If they can, they're not going to succeed. But that'd be their goal, no doubt about that. Would they say that in 2000?
Well, this is the deception.
What's that?
They know this stuff. These guys, they know that our birthright. They're not trading with the enemy. We were born on the land. We're not at sea. We were instituted this stuff and tax stuff and the Birth Certificate Act and the Social Security Act and all these things in their jurisdiction. They have no rule over the borders of the land, and the fact that they have any kind of laws made of the sea, that's what they continue to thrive in, the deception. And they don't even teach law anymore in school. The procedures they go through, and people plead out every day, and it's about insider trading and securities. That's what the whole deal boils down to, and it's corrupt and wrong. It's just, and they know it. They thrive at their own will and testament of their own diffusion.
Well, I tell you what, the calls are actually piling up now. Let's open the phone line, so we're going to comment on that. Is it Joe?
Okay.
Is it Joe? Is that what you said? Your name is Joe?
Yes, sir. Joseph Parham.
Thanks,
yes, sir.
Joe. We appreciate you calling in. And please call back next time.
I do too.
So what do you guys think what Joe's talking about here? That stuff, it resonates true to me, how, the corporate structure has sort of been overlaid and they've been usurping our true constitutional, really the constitutional principles that we should be living by. They've been able to usurp those and create an all capital letters person, a false person that they're able to tax and fine and permit. And what are your guys' thoughts on that? Can you resonate with what Joe says? Do you resonate with what he says?
Well, absolutely. What else do they take a footprint of besides on our birth certificate and utilize that for in any other kind of fashion?
Yeah, good question. I've thought about that. Jason, Jason or Joe, you guys, or Dave, you guys want to follow up on that at all? You want me to move on to the next caller?
Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, he's spot on with everything. And it all goes back to the Sailor v. Trust of 1666, the Sailor v. Act. I mean, it's all about England. It all comes from England. They didn't want to let us go. So they were ready to let it. They were ready to, 1999, 2000, that election right there. That's why they had the hanging chads in Florida. They actually vacated D.C. They were ready to give us back to the monarchy. Man, talk about a dodge. We dodged a real close one.
Well, that's the real history that I know people don't get.
One of the biggest patriots that.
Yeah, they don't hear real history. People don't get a chance to hear real history.
Yeah. It's so I got to jump in here. It's so convoluted over the decades or over the centuries. We've had a redefinition of terms, a redefinition of what this country is all about. And back in '99, Jason, you just triggered a memory. Remember they talked about recapturing the Title IV flag. Okay, and this may seem like it's unrelated, but it's an illustration of how fooled we have been as Americans. Okay, here we've got, ever since 9/11, everybody's been flying the American flag and everything, and everybody has American flags out in front of their house, and they're flying flags at the rallies, etc. Wait a second. The American flag. Now, what's the difference between an American flag and the United States flag? Now, our country is the United States of America. We happen to be on the continent of America. The name of our country is the United States, and there is a United States flag. If you look up Title IV, it gives very specific descriptions of what the United States flag is supposed to be. It's 1 unit in height and 1.9 units in the fly. And the star field is 40% of the fly. Now, it's not hard to figure out mathematically. You can draw it out on a piece of paper. The bottom line here is that in Title IV, it explains that plus or minus a variance of 5% of those dimensions is acceptable. Anything beyond that, and this is where it gets interesting, anything beyond that is a desecration. In other words, the flag does not represent anything if it doesn't subscribe to those dimensions. So if you go to the store and you buy a American flag, America doesn't exist. Our country is called the United States. And if you buy an American flag, it's a 3x5 flag. It does not subscribe to the correct dimensions of the Title IV flag. So when you're out there flying all these flags, you're representing nothing. That country does not exist. Okay? So this is just one way of many ways that we've all been fooled, because when you fly that flag, you're not claiming your rights as an American or as an American citizen. Okay? As a United States citizen, I should say. I stand corrected. So the point is that unknowingly, we give up our rights when we fly that flag. It sounds, oh, Dave, that's you're getting nitpicky and all that. No, this is important stuff. It's just as important as you knowing who you are. Hey, folks, are you a U.S. citizen? Fill out your job application. Hey, are you a U.S. citizen? Yes, I am. And you check it off. Well, guess what? You're not. A U.S. citizen is someone who resides in a territory or a Washington, D.C. We talked about this the other day. Okay, if you live in one of the states, you are a state citizen. Okay, these are all different ways that they've got you snookered and brought into this system that is so corrupt. And it's part of the straw man. People say, oh, straw man, that's all conspiracy theory. That's all those crazy, wacky, sovereign citizens doing all that crazy sovereign stuff. No, it's real. It really is. And that's what the battle is right now. And all you people out there that are screaming, oh, Trump is orange man bad, it's bad, oh, Trump. Trump isn't the one who did this. He was basically brought into this whole operation that's been formed for decades. They just needed to find the right guy to lead this thing, to take the office of the president so our military could recapture our country. It was stolen from us. So this is what the process is. And in the process of taking back our country and regaining our freedom, it's going to liberate the entire world. That's how important this is.
And to touch on that real quick, Dave, sorry.
No, go for it.
Look at what could have happened the other way. If Trump hadn't been elected, if Hillary had gotten in, if the military had done their coup, what would we as a people, how would we have reacted to that, not knowing what we know today, which we have been able to take that time to be able to go and learn what's really happened. We have had that opportunity to educate ourselves to understand the truth. If we hadn't gone through that and the military had done the coup in the way that was initially intentionally going to be done. Imagine how we would have reacted to that. What has been given to us to be able to go through this process to get to the point of reality of where we are now is a blessing. They blessed us with the ability to educate ourselves. They didn't have to. They weren't going to, but we lucked out and got that opportunity, and I'm grateful for it.
Well, I want to comment on Dave's on your flag story, Dave. Circle back a little bit. Not only are they waving the wrong flag, it's probably made in China.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I got to jump in there. When I was doing the Power Hour back when I was with Joyce, and we were on the GCN network, we contracted a manufacturer to make Title IV flags. We were the only place in the country where you could get a real United States flag. It was expensive as heck. And as far as the Title IV flag is, the only place you will find a Title IV flag is draped over a coffin of a veteran. That's why, you know, when somebody is killed in action or something, and they bring the folded flag, you know, in a case, and they hand it to the surviving member of the family. That is a Title IV flag, okay? But that's the only place you're going to find them in the United States, because they're not being manufactured. They're only made 3x5 flags, American flags that represent nothing. So, I mean, we have to find somebody who's willing to make these things. We tried doing it, you know, but, man, it was expensive, and, you know, a lot of people just didn't get it. We have to make Title IV flags again. Make
the
them
details
available.
matter.
We've got quite a few callers lined up, folks. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, actually, we're switching our flags, too.
Go
because now that we're in peacetime, we're going to move over to the United States civil peacetime flag.
Yep.
In which case the Union, which is the blue part with the white stars, color's going to flip, where you're going to have a white background, a white Union with the blue stars.
Right, and it hangs vertically instead of horizontally.
Yeah, it hangs vertically, yes. Yeah. Because it's not a battle. Because the one we're waving now, that's a battle flag. Right here. You see this? Illegal. It's a battle flag.
Yep.
See?
Flag of war.
Can't do that. See? Yep. And that's desecration of the flag right there, too.
Yep.
Well, folks, we've got quite a few callers in line, so we're going to answer it in the order which it came. Some people have been waiting for a while. We're just gonna roll through it.
Let's just ask them to be quick, because we want to see if we can get everybody on.
We want to get everybody in. So let's take the next caller here. Caller, you are live on the air. Please go ahead and state your first name and where you're calling from. Go ahead, caller. It's you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hello, caller. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put that caller back on hold again. Then we're going to go to the next caller and see if we can get them to come through.
You give them the area code so you know they know who you're talking to.
Caller, you're live on the air. Please go ahead and state your first name and where you're calling from.
My name is Sheila, and I'm calling from Oregon.
Hi, Sheila from Oregon. Thanks for calling in today.
How you doing, Jim?
They're doing pretty good. Good.
Well, I'm doing okay. All this stuff. You guys know anything about Nancy Schaefer and her husband being murdered because she was getting ready to take down CPS?
Indeed, yes. I did a special on. I don't know. Maybe if you go to my YouTube channel on Northwest Liberty News, you type in Nancy Schaefer. I did a special on her maybe a year ago, and I broke down a lot of that stuff that happened with her. And yes, indeed, I'm well aware of it. I can't speak for my co-hosts.
So my question is I hope Trump is looking into that, and also President Trump. I shouldn't be, but I hope he's looking into that, and because there's a big thing behind that too. Those people were murdered. Everybody that goes to do anything is murdered. I'm wondering if he's going to disassemble that program, because if he isn't, there's no point in doing this. These people are still going to sell kids. If there's money, there's criminals. I don't care where you are in the world. I want to see CPS destroyed. I want to see it dismantled piece by piece in the next 6 months. Those people are all criminals. They don't care about the kids. They care about a paycheck, and they're criminals. And one other thing I wanted to say was about this Azar. I don't know anything about him, but I don't think I like him because I don't think he's done anything for the kids and the CPS system. I don't think I like the way he's handled the CDC, the Health and Human Services. I don't want a vaccine. Nobody wants a vaccine. these people came out, well, I shouldn't say nobody, because people that are scared to death, they want whatever they can get, right? I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared to die. I'm not afraid to die because I know I'm going to meet God when I die, and I'm going to be there. But these people that are so scared they're going to die and they're willing to wear a panty on their face for the rest of their life, this AIDS czar needs to either get on the program or get out of the way.
Well, did you have a specific question that you wanted us to take care of? As I said, we got a lot of callers lined up. Did you have Go ahead.
I do have a question. I know that you talked to Flynn's sister. I'd like to ask you to please personally ask her to tell General Flynn to take down CPS, please. Please.
I will do that. I will do that.
And a lot of your listeners are people that have been through absolute sheer hell with this system, and I'm included in one of them.
Oh, I understand.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. I think that's a good. A good idea, Jason. What do you think? Taking down the child trafficking, money laundering cabal known as CPS, whatever form it is in your state, DPHHS, DPS, whatever it is. They're likely trafficking children and kidnapping them for sure without due process. Jason, I mean, when I talk to the guy, my contact, he says that it is coming down. There's going to be no more of that. If we go back to common courts and common law, there'll be no more of them going in your house and kidnapping your children without due process and taking them somewhere and trafficking them. That's going away. Is your thoughts on that, Jason?
Yeah. The thing about CPS is it was never Child Protective Services. It was Child Procurement Services.
That's right.
They've been trafficking the whole time. Our government is complacent in so many crimes against humanity, crimes against children, that I'm actually surprised it took this long, because with the whole COVID, they want to scream pandemic and they have to wear all these masks and everything for, what? But how many deaths have they had? I mean, honestly, what, 80,000, 90,000, somewhere around there? When the Clintons were in office, the missing children were in the 900,000s every year.
Yep.
Nobody screamed pandemic then. No Amber Alerts went off. Nothing. So it's okay that the kids are missing, but then yet they talk about a disease that they actually brought over here. They created in a lab. They blamed it on bats. They created a lab. They brought over here as a first phase of to actually kill us, because honestly, they didn't have any other way. Because I mean, we have Obama's playbook too, that it states what they were going to do to us. And I mean, it is frightening. I'll post it on post it on Facebook, wherever, people can print it. Go ahead. We're getting the truth out there, All we got is Facebook left. So Twitter took us down, and
I did a special here. I did a show about 18,000 children missing just from the foster care system in 2017. That's like 6 9/11s of children that just went missing. They just went missing from foster care. That's just 1 year, and that's just here in America. Like you stated, this is a worldwide. I did a report here about a year or so ago in Italy, where they had a ring in Italy. They were actually electroshocking the children after they kidnapped them to put memories in their brain of their parents abusing them, so they could convince them when they went to court that they believed that their parents were abusing them. Literally using shock therapy on it. I did a whole special on it. It was reported for a couple of days. These people are demons. I'm not saying everybody in CPS does that and everybody in CPS is a bad person, but they're, I've always found, Kelly, that people that want to procure children and traffic them, they end up working in places where there's a lot of children. Youth counselor, pastor, soccer coach. Is that what you're seeing? I mean, is that the pattern you've noticed as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why not? I mean, that's their mentality is, if I could take advantage of an opportunity that's going to allow me a closer proximity to what my end game is, that's where I'm going to go. And, that is egregious lack of oversight of those kind of children coming up missing. But when you're talking about those numbers, Jason, you're dead on. The average is 800,000 a year. I'd really like to know what last year's numbers are.
They're in the 400,000s.
Right.
So that's what we got here. 400,000 children missing.
They dropped in half. Yeah,
Yep.
they were in the 400,000s.
Yep, that's what.
And
we
they've
got.
been steadily dropping since
One is
since
too many.
2016.
Yeah, it's outrageous. Well, we've got more callers here waiting. Let's
Before we go there, I just want to jump in real quick.
Sure.
What you were just describing about the electroshock to these children, this is some of the stuff that was being, this information was being provided to me and Joyce in the form of documents that were handed to us in manila envelopes when we were traveling around the country advocating for the veterans. And this is the stuff that, when I was talking to Ted Gunderson, his investigation into the child trafficking going back into the 80s, this is the stuff that, these were the experiments, the MK Ultra sub-projects that they were developing back in the 50s and 60s became standard operating procedure in behavior modification. And you can look this stuff up. It's in Senate reports and congressional hearings. But the sub-projects of MK Ultra involving children were not included in some of those congressional hearings. We had copies of that. And the stuff that they were doing to children in developing their methodology for brainwashing and conditioning were absolutely beyond your imagination evil. I mean, stuff that they were doing to these children is absolutely disgusting. I mean, I cried. Joyce was literally sick to her stomach. And this stuff has become standard operating procedure with some of these agencies.
They're demons,
and this is the stuff that has to stop. This is the battle that's going on. This is not Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. It's good versus evil. And if they take over, that will be the norm, because it's been the norm for decades. It has to stop. We will fight this to the death. At least I will, because there's nothing else to live for if we give up the children.
Well, it was, is, and will always be about the children. Always. That's always what it's about. That's the currency that they trade in. We're going to go back here to the caller that we tried a little bit earlier, where I don't know if you stepped away from the line, but we'll try again. Area code 708, if that helps. If you're listening, if you hear this in real time, which I think you do. Go ahead, caller. You're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Okay. Caller? All right.
Not that one.
Not that
That's
time.
Chicago.
Oh, was that another caller? Was that you, Jason, or was that the caller?
No, 708's from that's Chicago.
Okay.
That's a south side of Chicago.
Okay, caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. 847 area
Hi,
code.
this
Hey,
is Lorene. Hi, this is Lorene from Illinois.
Lorraine from Illinois.
Yes.
Thanks, Lorraine from Illinois, for calling. We appreciate you tuning into the show. Do you have a question for the panel here?
Yes, my question is, we're told that we're watching a movie. Now, does that mean the governors, are they following a script, or are they doing this as they normally would do, thinking they're going to get away with it?
Jason, why don't you tackle that one? Jason, what's your thoughts on it? I have my thoughts on it as well, but go ahead. Everybody can answer that one.
Well, I mean, it depends on who the governor is, if it's Democrat, Republican, or if they're on the good or dark side. They're on the good or dark side. When President Trump was going out and doing all the rallies, if you notice, he was only helping out the governors and the Senate. He would not even mess with the House. He had no interest in the House, because the governor has more power than people know. They actually have the two alternates that they could send to the Senate once all the Senate and the House resign, which is coming up.
I think some, if you remember, Mike Pompeo, I think it was in June of last year, had a governor's conference, and he basically gave him a heads up to all 50 governors apparently were there, and he said, many of your names are on this Chinese Communist Party influence list. They have a score for all of you, and they know, how susceptible you are to being bribed or being caught in a honeypot situation, whatever you want to call it. So my answer to that is, I think there's very few that may be on board with the White Hats, but I think that the Chinese Communist Party has infiltrated just about every municipality, just about every seat of power, every governing body. They've got their people on the ground looking to move in and bribe people and get information. David, do you think I'm off on that? What's your
Oh,
thoughts?
no, you're not far off at all. And people have to understand what we're going through right now is an international incident. I mean, the thing with the election fraud, et cetera, there's so many countries that now are involved in, and with the revelation of the Italian government and the Vatican and Germany and Spain and Canada and China and Venezuela. I mean, a lot of those European countries, they're NATO allies of the United States. They have betrayed the United States. And I know that sounds like I'm going a little bit off the track here, but I mean, this is how big this event is, this election interference. Go ahead, Kelly. I know you're chomping
So
at
a
the
couple
bit.
of details about Pompeo's thing. It really was. It was a friendlies list that they got from China, and I think he actually made that statement. It was either in January or February before COVID hit. It was kind of like a warning. Like, we know whether you're on the naughty or the nice list, and we know how you're going to play this out, and you're going to expose yourselves.
Right on. So let's bring the caller back on. Caller, did that answer your question adequately?
Yes, I just wondered because they keep pushing the limit, and we're like, are you kidding me? We all can see the unjust that it's done to our state and our school kids not going to school, and we just don't know what else to do. The rallies after rallies, they just don't get anywhere.
Well,
and we don't know if the school boards are involved or what.
Well, there is people just have to rise up in mass, and it has to be, it has to be a rally that, let's put it this way, it has to be a rally with purpose, because they don't understand, they disregard the liberties of the average folk. I mean, I think these people are criminals. I really think they're just flat out criminals, and I think that it can be proven that they are. And as I've stated before, and I'll just leave it at this, criminals don't usually turn themselves in. They usually have to be apprehended. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Let's caller, thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate you calling into the show today.
Hey, before we go to the next one, how
Go ahead.
close are we to the speech?
Let me check here.
Pompeo's live right now.
Oh, there's the mayor of Chicago. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, we don't want to see
Also,
her.
I don't want to see that either.
Also, you have the governor of Illinois, Pritzker.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole family's tainted. The whole Hyatt family, and because I've had my run-ins with plenty of people in Chicago, so the corruption is just mind-numbing.
Oh yeah,
it's all about
systemic.
it's all about the five crime families in Chicago against the 5 crime families in New York. Basically, what it is.
Yeah, it's systemic fraud.
It's your 5-5.
There's legion. The fraud's legion.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on to the next caller here. Let's see. This should be it right here. Caller, you are live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. 404.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Just fine. My question is about the vaccinations. It may have been answered already, but my main concern was if Trump is not deep state, then why would he kind of be like a pitch salesman for these vaccines that I've heard could potentially damage our DNA?
I think that's an excellent question, and that
take
is
it.
one of the most difficult questions. Go ahead, Kelly. You got something?
I'll
Go ahead.
totally take it. Okay, so when you have to think about it from the stance where he's sitting in, there are still millions of people that don't quite understand it and that are pretty much begging for the vaccine. It's also a way of exposing Big Pharma and what they've done, which has been a massive point that he wants to absolutely take down with. And you can see with the steps that he's done as far as hospitals having to disclose their costs beforehand, what he's done as far as the prices on everything, where we actually get the lowest price that's available throughout the world, just like everybody else does. We're not getting charged that extra money. And, the vaccines containing the RNA, it's a DNA restructuring possibility. How do you know what kind of nanoparticles are in that? You look at the ingredients. There is, what was it? Potassium
chloride.
Thank you.
Potassium chloride.
Why would you want to inject something like that to yourself to try and save yourself from getting a virus that has a 99.9% chance of a survival rate? So you're going to take a 94 or a 95% that they say active vaccine compared to a 99.9% survival rate. I'll take my survival rate over a vaccine every day.
There's another side to this. This vaccine, they're talking about Operation Warp Speed. You know, we want to get these vaccines out to the masses, and we're going to use the National Guard, and we're getting all these military. I'm just speculating here. Dare I say I have a conspiracy theory? What if Trump and the White Hats are on top of this? They know about the experimental aspect of this vaccine. They know that it's an attempt to change our DNA so we can link to AI and become part of the machine, shall we say. What if they're aware of this? And what if they're going to use the guys to say, okay, we're going to get these vaccines out to you. We're sending out the National Guard, and all the unwashed, uninformed masses go, yay, we're going to get the vaccine. Yay, here comes the National Guard. And then the National Guard gets there and says, guess what? This isn't about the vaccine. We have some people that we need to talk to. And they go in and they start grabbing a bunch of these people. You know, this would be one way to deploy the military and the National Guard so people would not be alarmed because it's under the guise of distributing the vaccine. But in fact, it is to get these guys in place so when they flip the switch, they're already in place to be able to grab people that need to be arrested.
Well, I submit to you, David, there's a bunch of National Guard flowing into D.C., busloads full. And again, they're not even going to, from my understanding, they're not even going to have a true inauguration. It's going to be a virtual inauguration. They should put up firewalls on their servers, not like put troops in the streets. Yeah, there's not going to be people there.
Is it National Guard or is it the U.S. military? Because there is a big difference.
No, it said National Guard. What I saw was National Guard. The video that I saw, there may be other military there that that there's numerous videos, but the one I saw, they specifically said National Guard arrives.
Okay, because I know that the military has been deployed in California.
Right.
Now the National Guard can only be deployed by the governor. Now, Governor Newsom, he's in deep doo-doo right now, okay? And a lot of people are pissed off at him, and people are fleeing California. And he has, zero credibility. So, I mean, he is not going to be exactly motivated to put these troops out there. I mean, to put the National Guard out there. So this is why I think it was out of his hands so that they're sending military in there. And it's just something else to throw into the mix.
Well, caller, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it covers most of it. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I've been following Jason Q and you guys for quite some time. And I just want to thank you for the research you're doing and bringing all this to all of us to make us feel better about what's going on.
Well, we appreciate you. We appreciate you, caller. We couldn't do it without you. So
just don't take it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I wanted to get Jason's take on that, what I was just talking about what do you think about the dispersion of the troops, Operation Warp Speed? Do you think that I'm far off on the possibility that this is a guise to get all of these guys in place to flip the switch?
I'm going to take it one step further on your conspiracy.
Good for you. I like it.
I firmly believe that Operation Warp Speed is actually the voting. It's the blockchain voting. Because under Nisera law, the military actually monitors the voting. Because in order to have a fair election, because remember, this is an election for our republic. This election right here was for the corporation. Right. We're ditching the corporation and we're coming back to our republic. President Trump went over and took every country over. He even showed the list of all the countries that subdued, every single one. You had the sword dance in Saudi Arabia. You had the red carpet in Japan. You had the Queen, where he walked in front. Even in China, he walked in front of Xi, inspected his troops. So he's got China as well. So who's left? I mean, it's not even really the Chinese Communist Party. It's the CIA. It's the Jesuits. It's the Freemasonic Order. You got the Rosicrucians. You have these Black Brethren.
Well, these are the secret societies that Kennedy was warning us about. So for all of you people saying, "Oh, that's conspiracy theory," that's bull. It's not bull. This is what Kennedy was screaming about, and that's why they took him out.
Do we want to throw in Mike Pompeo speaking live right now? Do we want to patch into him, or do we want to wait till Trump comes out? What do you guys think? I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you think?
This is breaking news.
Want to pop it in?
We interrupt this broadcast.
Pop it in and see what he's got to say, and then we'll come back. Let's pop it in. Pop in Pompeo and see what he's got to say. We'll be back.
You're talking about China.
That for just a moment. Look, we're all part of institutions with duties and responsibilities higher and bigger and more important than any one of us individually. But this kind of censorial instinct is dangerous. It's morally wrong. Indeed, it's against your statutory mandate here at VOA. Censorship, wokeness, political correctness, it all points in one direction: authoritarianism cloaked as moral righteousness. Similar to what we're seeing at Twitter and Facebook and Apple and on too many university campuses today. It's not who we are. It's not who we are as Americans. And it's not what Voice of America should be. It's time that we simply put wokeism to sleep. And you can lead the way. You all know. That's why you came here. There's a new dawn here at Voice of America. The American public doesn't know this, but when Michael took office, some 1,500 employees, almost 40% of the workforce, had been improperly vetted, including many with high-level security clearances. VOA was rubber stamping J-1 visas for foreign nationals, including some from communist China. We shouldn't be doing that. We have plenty of Mandarin language speakers here in America, and we are building, growing, teaching, educating more committed patriots, some of Chinese American descent who are amazing people.
So I like Pompeo. It sounds like he's talking. I don't know what the Voice
of America.
Voice of America. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think Trump is supposed to come on here on this feed
We'll just keep tabs on it.
Yeah, let's
monitor. We'll monitor it. We have other callers that are here, I think, on this.
Yeah, let's roll through some calls.
Okay, let's go through some calls. We got a couple here, so let's bring the next caller in. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Area code 920. Caller, you there? Okay, they hung up. Let's try this one more time. Let's try the caller that we've been trying a couple times now. Let's try one more time. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Caller? That's you. Go right ahead.
Callers need to say something.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
All right. If you want to call in the show right now, you can call 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. And, it's no coincidence that here we are talking about Pompeo just before with the governors, talking about CCP influence, and he's just saying, you guys are rubber stamping basically Chinese spies. I mean, just rubber stamping them. Mm-hmm. They've infiltrated everywhere, Dave. They've infiltrated every organization, the universities, the media, our government, everything.
I mean, it started when Nixon, opened up trade with China and opened up relations, I should say, with China, and it really got ramped up under the Clinton administration, to the best of my knowledge. While the rest of the country was being force-fed the Monica Lewinsky Kool-Aid, because that was the distraction. I mean, that was the sexy, juicy, controversial, scandalous story that inquiring minds want to know. And so America was just sucking all that information, Monica Lewinsky's cigars, but the real story was Chinagate, because Clinton was selling tech to China in return for campaign contributions. And this is where, we're talking 30 years ago, folks. Okay, this is where the exchanges and the business dealings and the backroom deals that were going on really started to ramp up. And over 3 decades, you can only imagine how deeply entrenched the Chinese Communist Party is in our government. And it's not just the Democrats. It also is a good portion of the Republicans as well. And this is why the White Hats, and again, I can't believe when I look back that I was sitting in a meeting in '96 with these guys, and I didn't understand it at the time. And this is why they've been going at this for decades to try to root out this influence that's infiltrated like a cancer into our country. So the whole thing has got to be ripped down. The whole thing has got to be, all these people got to get out. And they got to do time or face justice. And if it's treason, well, we all know what the penalty for treason is. It's going to be a very interesting time these next couple of years. We have to purge and clean house.
Well, the phone lines have loaded back up again. Kelly, did you want to say something?
They've all exposed themselves. And there's no going back.
No going back.
Once you made the decision last week, that's it. You can't apologize for it. There's no I'm sorry. Well, I didn't mean to. Well, I was manipulated to do it. It doesn't matter. You had the choice. You had the opportunity. You made that choice. And now you're going to face the repercussions of it. And Steve Daines himself in Montana has been hearing from me on his page about that.
Ooh.
Well, let's take another caller here. Caller, you are live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hey, it's us.
Boo.
Go ahead, caller. You're on.
Hello, hello.
Hello, caller. This female voice is going, hello, hello. Go ahead and speak, talk, communicate.
Yes, now that Trump has resigned, what happens next?
Okay.
Resign?
Resigned from?
We like that word.
That's what it says on the State Department.
That's what it says in the State Department. Jason, sounds like you got an answer for that. Go ahead.
Trump couldn't sign the Insurrection Act at all. He has to stay completely balanced, completely neutral in everything. It's because of the office he holds. It's not the office of the president. He holds a higher office. Let's just leave it at that. Now, you bring in General Flynn. General Flynn can sign the Insurrection Act. Thing is that you would see like the continuity of government, the vice president would step in. Well, they already deemed that Pence was already bad. So what they do, they turn around and they brought the real VP pick of President Trump. It was Michael Flynn. Flynn was always going to be the vice president pick. But they turned around and they made a mockery out of him. They put him in front of the FBI. They went after his son and all this. And they him, Sidney Powell, and even Emmett G. Sullivan was in on it because he was the one that, wrote the 34-page document about mandatory vaccines being unconstitutional. So when you look at the vaccines also, it's free will. You have a freedom of choice. If you get it, then you have to deal with the repercussions of that. Like Kelly was saying, it's as simple as that. Don't take them. Potassium chloride, they give that to the death row inmates. Why are they giving it to you to cure this? I mean, weren't they just laughing about, oh, President Trump says injecting bleach into his skin. Well, what's so different than this?
Well, is there breaking news we're missing?
It makes no difference.
Did Trump resign? I'm sorry to cut you off, but is there?
Oh yeah.
Is that
he did.
Since we've been on the show here? Did that happen since we've been on the show here? That's breaking news because we've been trying to get ready here for an hour and a half or so. Did we miss?
I think he resigned a long time ago. He resigned on stage.
Florida, right. Okay, so it's nothing new than what he did. So he didn't concede.
Concession.
Right. Okay,
no.
so
resignation. Yes.
Okay, so it's not new today. All right, very good. I was just want to make sure that's what we had going on here. All right, so let's take this next call here. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. 610.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes?
Go ahead, caller.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, I have a question. I have woke a lot of people up, but they're all asking me the same question. What about our taxes this year? Do we start doing them? I mean, is there an IRS now yet, or do we do them or not?
Well, we can't give financial advice here out on the show. We're not financial advisors. However, we can certainly answer the question, if it were us in your position, this is what we would do. I saw you shaking your head there, Jason. What say you? And then we'll go over to Kelly and Dave.
The IRS is gone. I mean, it's under the Nacera law as well. The IRS has never been, it's never been legal. They have been ripping us off since what, 1913?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Ever since they saved the Titanic. I mean, in 1990, they found $800 trillion in a cabal account in a Puerto Rican trust. And that's where the White Hat started. Well, not started, but that's where they found all the money, and it's a lot more than that. So personally, in my honest opinion, I wouldn't do them. If you owe, not at all, because you really don't know. None of us owe any taxes. I mean, how can we even owe anything? They take from us every time you buy something, every time you do anything, everything's taxed.
No, taxation is theft. That's for sure. Kelly,
It is.
What's your thoughts?
The IRS is the collection agency for the Federal Reserve. They've been funneling money from us for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And the ATF
their
is the
dirty
military
deeds.
branch of the IRS.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is because when you go into the definitions, for instance, we get back to the subterfuge and the confusion definition of terms. The term or the definition of income, it's very important to understand what that means according to the IRS. You go by their definitions. It's, you know, and what the income defined is any monies that are derived from the sale, manufacture, or distribution of alcohol, tobacco, or firearms. So if you're in that business, if you're making money from alcohol, tobacco, or firearms, then the money that you get is indeed income. However, if you pound nails for a living, or if you drive a truck for a living, or you flip, hamburgers for a living, and you have nothing to do with alcohol, tobacco, or firearms, then by their definition, that money is not income. So, but they fool you because you don't know that. So they send out these the tax returns. You're supposed to send a return. How can you return something that you were never given in the first place? Anyway, the point is that they say, what was your income? And if you don't know, and you made, say, $35,000 pounding nails last year, they say, what was your income? And you go, well, I made $35,000. And you just volunteered your money to be taxed. And this is a big can of worms, but learning the definitions of their terms is really important because the whole thing is based on a fraud and it's deception.
Well, caller, we hope that answered your question. We've got the calls just loading up here in the call queue, but thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please
Thanks,
call back
Jason.
next
Thanks,
time.
Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, folks. Yeah, your calls are piling up. We're going to get to them as fast as we can, and I don't suspect we'll be able to get to all of them here in this show, but maybe.
Rock on there, Jim.
So here we go. Caller, you are live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from, please. 276 area code. Caller, you're up.
Hey there.
Hey.
I'd like to first say thank y'all for all y'all do. I mean, everybody's eyes need to be open eventually. I got a strange question. There's so much misinformation out there. You first have Tom Hort saying that apophysis is going to hit in 2029. You also say that, other people say that there's Nibiru coming from the sun. How does all this play into biblical prophecy? Given if there is going to be.
Whoa. I don't know if that, I guess anybody can take a shot at that. That's not really I don't know if we're all expert enough, really. We're laymen. Maybe unless you guys are ministers, I don't know about it. But I can't tell you myself how it all ties into biblical prophecy specifically. Do any of you have any viewpoints on that you'd like to share with the caller?
I'm going to go ahead and take this one because
go ahead.
The Bible, the thing about it is that the Bible, the technical name for the Bible is the Christian Holy Bible of Laws and Government. They wrote it back in the days of Hammurabi. Now they have the Code of Hammurabi. That's where you get the eye for an eye. It's all in Babylonian times. That's why when we speak, it's all Babel. It's Babylonian. Mm-hmm. We are in a huge Babylonian, like this. It's like a slave driving technique that they're using. They have us all enslaved to pretty much like give them what they want and not understand that we have the power. But the Bible is actually taken from a different text. It was taken from the Enuma Elish, which is the Babylonian epic of creation, which is the correct epic of creation for us and how we were created and all this. Because when we speak of creators, right, we have, God, source, that's our creator, but there's also other creators. There's creators that made our meat suits and creators that, that's why we have a reptilian brain. When you start out, they actually call it a reptilian brain. We are a genetic experiment, but we're actually going to be moving up. We're actually ascending out of this. And with Nibiru's by the Anunnaki were the first ones that came here. That's why when President Trump says Kafebe, it actually has multiple meanings. We're actually fighting the ancient fallen ones, the giants, the Nephilim. There's a lot of stuff in the Bible that has been left out. And the book of Enoch, the keys of Enoch, that's where you need to be looking, because all the truth is in there. The Bible is just, it's all stories, and it's the same story with different names. That's all it is. It's everything. It's almost like it's on repeat.
Why don't you tell them where they can find the keys of Enoch? Because I know that's something.
You can go to the www.keysofenoch.org, and it's $50, but it's worth 10 times that.
Well, I have a different perspective on things on what you just stated, but that's not something that we want to really probably get into. We can probably in further other shows we can have that, and we'll have some people that are. I have got a pastor friend of mine that we can have on and have an open discussion about those type of things. Let's go back here to the caller. Caller, does that help answer your question?
It does. I mean, I know about the keys of Enoch. I've been following you quite a bit, Jason, for I'd say probably about 6 months now. It's hard to wrap my mind around everything, our true history, when all you've done is study, the Holy Bible, the Scripture, the King James Bible, that interpretation, and it's hard. It's something that it's just difficult to break your mind out of and try to accept truth.
And I think that's the key. I think that's what we may have a different perspective on things, and that's fine. We all come from different backgrounds. But I think really the common thread that goes between everybody here in the show, we just want to get down to the truth, whatever that is, whatever the real truth is, and the whatever that answer is, whatever the result is. I just want to be able to find out what the real truth is, and I think that should be the quest for everyone, is to find out what the real truth is. Dave, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that when you're going to do some study into the Bible, you also want to check all the books that surround the Bible. It's sort of like, you can read the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and stuff like that, but if you don't know how the Founding Fathers came up with this, if you don't read the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers and all the paperwork that revolved around that time and that created our founding documents, then you don't really have a full understanding of the founding documents. The same thing could be said about the King James Version of the Bible. There are many books that were taken out. For instance, in the book of Daniel, chapter 13 was removed. So you can go look that up, and you'll find out why it was removed. There were many other books. The Apocrypha was removed, the book of Enoch, et cetera, et cetera. So if you really, the book of Jasher, don't forget the book of Jasher. That's mentioned twice in the Bible. So to have a better understanding when you're doing Bible study, look at the books that were taken out and the books that that revolve around that, because it gives you a better perspective. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Caller, we appreciate you calling in. Thanks so very much. Please call back again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the next caller.
Man, we're just rattling.
Call, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and what state you're calling from, please. 773 area code.
Chicago too.
Hello, caller.
Chicago.
Go, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
Caller, listen to your phone. Don't listen to the computer because there's a delay. Listen to your phone if you're online on hold.
Chicago.
All right, then we're going to move on to another caller. Maybe that caller will call back. That's the that happens when you take in callers. You never know what you're going to get. So
yeah,
that's kind of one of those things. It's kind of fun though, as long as people remain respectful, and that's okay. Everybody's not going to agree on everything. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Caller 219.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Rachel, and I'm in Northwest Indiana.
Hi, Rachel from Northwest Indiana. Thanks for calling into the show today.
Me too.
Hi. Thanks. I have a quick question about people who have taken the vaccines or may take the vaccines. I'm just wondering if they can be healed of anything, you know, that may come upon them, or if, you know, the med beds are going to be here soon, you know, if they took them, if it's just death, there is nothing that, you know, can be reversed.
You know, I'm not a medical expert, but my thoughts would be. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the reason why I ask is my husband, his boss keeps, you know, telling him that, you know, he needs to take the vaccines, and pretty soon buildings are not going to let him in. And he works in Chicago, the north side, the west side, all over the place. And I just worry about him. He's not open to the fact. He hasn't been following Q, and he thinks that I follow conspiracy theories, but he does agree about the vaccine, that, you know, it is dangerous. But if it comes down to him losing his job, I just don't want him to, you know, I told him it's not, your life is not worth money, you know.
I think you just said it for yourself. I mean, if you're in a situation where you have to take something that could potentially cause you harm in order for a job, jobs are a dime a dozen. You can find another one.
That's right. I concur. Sometimes it's painful, and you know, to take a stance, sometimes you have to make a sacrifice, you know, and you hope that it's not, you know, it's not, you know, too punitive on you. But, you know, I mean, there's people that I know, a friend of mine, he quit. He was a janitor for a long time at a school and had a long career there, and he did, you know, great work, and they kept telling him they had to wear a mask, and he finally just retired because he didn't want to continue to wear the mask, because, you know, you have to stand for something. You fall for anything. I don't know. It's not easy for everybody. You know, every person has to evaluate their own situation and do what's best for, you know, yourself and your family, certainly. But sometimes you do have to make a stand.
Right.
You know.
You better be 100% sure that it's safe, because if you're 1% wrong, your entire life and the lives of your unborn progeny are at stake.
Indeed. Okay, caller. Thanks so much for calling in.
Jason has something to jump in.
Yeah, and being from the 219 area code, like myself, I will actually come to your house and bring all the evidence for these vaccines if you like. I mean, I'm dead serious. I mean,
love that.
That's how much
I
I'm
did
against
write
these.
to you. I didn't message you, but I did mention, like, I'm like right next to you. I'm probably about 5 minutes from you, and I just wish that someone can wake him up, you know, just so he understands. He's very smart. I mean, everybody calls him at work if there's a problem. I mean, he's amazing at what he does. It's just, you know, waking him up to what's really going on. I've been trying to do that since 2017.
Jason, do you have an email that you want to send out, or some way that you can have this young lady get in contact with you better? Or
yeah, it's ironclimber76@yahoo.com.
One more time.
ironclimber76@yahoo.com.
Iron climber, like climbing up iron, like
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
ironclimber76@yahoo.com. Does that answer your question, caller?
Okay. I'll send him an email, and thank you so much, for answering my call.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks so much for calling in. We appreciate it. All right, you got someone one of your neighbors are listening in there, Jason.
Oh yeah. 773-708. That's all Chicago as well. So.
Well, here's another 773 number that we're going to take right
Come
now.
on.
Here we go.
Jason's got stalkers, and they finally get to talk to him, and they are super excited.
Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. 773. Caller from 773.
Well, how many times do your people get to ask you questions?
Okay. We'll have to put that caller on hold.
They can just ask me for my number, and they can call me anytime. That's the best part.
Put that caller on hold. We'll bring the next caller up. Caller, you are live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. 604 area code.
Hi, my name is Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm calling from Canada, and just wanting to say that, you know, our hearts go out to all Americans. We're all watching closely, and because it affects us all. What I was wondering is that movie, The Called, is anybody going to be doing a live show that'll actually go through step by step and decode it? I found a couple codes which Jason Q has taught me how to decode. And the one thing that I found was that pickup truck, the GMC pickup truck right at the beginning, was actually a 1952, which then comes out to 17, which I found very interesting. But my wife and I, when we first saw the movie, we thought, oh my gosh, this is so boring, you know, like how could this be any good? And then after, when we realized that there's a bunch of codes in there, that's when we got all excited, and we spent like 3 hours just decoding the thing, you know? So I'm just wondering if anybody's going to go through the entire thing over again and just pause it and decode it for things that we actually forgot.
Man, that would take forever.
Any of you have any answer to that?
Oh yeah, we will. We also found another one when there's the whole Gloria song by it was Laura Branigan. Now that has to do with Roman Freemasonry, because the Masonic authority Albert Pike ends his monumental Morals and Dogma with a Masonic motto in Roman Latin: Gloria de es celare verbum, amen. It's glory to the God to conceal things, amen. So there's your Gloria.
And Gloria was also the same thing that was playing before Trump was going on stage on the 6th.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, everything's coded.
It's so diabolical.
It is. It's on the
Unbelievable.
They do use code. They do use code.
Pure.
Caller, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And thank you so much. Love all your shows.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you calling in. Thanks so very much. Things
Thank
are
you.
rolling well, folks. We appreciate the callers calling in here. 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. It looks like this next caller here is shielded is call-in number. That's okay. We'll take him anyway. Caller, thanks for calling in. You're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, hello.
Sure. That's you, caller. Go right ahead.
Oh, yay. First, I just wanted to say, hey, Jason, I listen to you all the time. I just had a quick question. Have you ever seen the back of a Masonic Bible?
The back of a Masonic Bible. I cannot say that I have ever seen the back of a Masonic Bible. Any of you?
I can't say
I was asking Jason.
Jason.
I haven't.
We're not allowed to talk.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Okay, I think there'd be some info in there you'd like.
Well, can you send can you
And
take
then
a
also,
snapshot?
I wanted to ask
if you want, you can email me, or if you want, or even discuss it here. Everything has to do with Freemasonry.
I'll send you an email.
Okay.
I'll send you an email over. And then two, now, is this right? If Trump resigns, everybody loses their jobs, right?
Well, if Trump resigns, then all of Congress, everybody that's elected, they have to resign or they're forcibly removed. That's under the Sarah law. That's actually the 1776 commission. He wrote that on 11/2, the day before the election. So then when they had the 11/3 start, 11/4 actionable. Now the 11/3 start, you take that 4 months, because our delta is 4. You take it 4 months, and that's March 3rd, which March 3rd, 1933 is when they dedicated Mount Rushmore. And then you take it 4 months later, exactly, and Trump was at Mount Rushmore last year, there with the fireworks.
Yeah, it is numerology and numbers. Caller,
awesome.
Thanks so much for calling in, caller. We got a few callers stacked up. We only got a few minutes left, and we're not trying to get to all of them. We appreciate you calling in. Thanks so very much. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Using their own weapons against them. I love it.
Okay, let's take another caller here. We can get through these. We got, there was one just dropped off, so see if we can get to these callers for the end of the show. Caller, thanks for calling in. You're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. Caller 773 area code. You're up.
Chicago.
All right. We'll move on to the next one. Well, just rolling through here, folks.
That was a noisy phone line.
That was noisy.
We're obviously driving.
Caller, you are live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from. 978 area code. Caller. I feel like that guy on TV. Bueller. Okay, we'll move on to the next call here. Let's move on to the next call. We're just rolling through them, folks. Caller, you're live on the air. Please state your first name and where you're calling from.
I think we have this problem with the delay because
331
they're listening
area
to
code.
their computer.
We got about like 15 minutes left, so if we're
I think the phones should be good. I think the phones, there shouldn't be delay on the
no, I'm
phones.
thinking we should just like finish up some final
Folks,
talking
331 area code.
Hello.
Hello. You're live on the air. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen to your telephone. Don't watch the computer. Listen to your telephone.
Yeah, I've seen Jason for quite a while, but I'm not familiar with the rest of them.
Well, we're some rebel rousers that he actually
I'm trying to do that.
He reached out to, and we decided to all come together.
I know you don't want to look at me on my phone.
Jason's the star of the show.
Do you have a question? Do you have a question?
Not able to figure out how to get the computer off there, so I can talk on the phone. But anyways, I'd like to hook up with the rest of y'all. You'll seem pretty intelligent, and I'm wondering if Jason could post the links to the rest of you guys.
We got you all fooled, I guess.
Yeah, we got you all fooled. Oh, brother.
I could do that. I'll definitely do that.
I mean, I'm not familiar with the rest of you guys, but I would like to catch up and get with you guys.
Well, you're fine. I can tell you, we can go around here. I'm at Northwest Liberty News. You can see it right above my head there. That's pretty much my flagship station there, Northwest Liberty News. Kelly, where can people find out more about you?
Shh, I'm a secret.
She's a secret. You can go to Dave's website, davevonKleist.com. You can see the name on the screen there. If you're looking at the computer, Dave, just go to davevonKleist.com.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is 4 pictures, but it's not showing me all your info there.
Oh.
Well, one of the pictures has.
Jason put up links to all y'all on his page, and that way I can hook up with everybody. I'm getting blocked on like everybody else on all the media.
Right on.
So I'm having a hard
Jason will do
time
that.
keeping news with anybody.
I think
and
Jason
I'm
would do
feeling
that.
like Claus here.
Definitely will.
All right, very good caller. Thanks so much. We
All
got
right.
callers are
Thank you.
stacking up.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for calling in.
All
We
right.
appreciate you
Y'all
calling
be
in.
good.
Everyone, have a good
You
day.
too.
We got about 14 left.
We got about
Do the same.
14 minutes. What do you guys want to continue to take calls? You want to wrap up the show?
think
You
we
want to
should
take a
wrap
couple more calls, or you want to give everybody like 30 seconds? Really? You want to give everybody 30 seconds?
I think we've got some talking points.
Got some talking points. Okay,
Yeah.
folks. We're gonna if you're on the phone queue there, we're not gonna take any more calls here. We want to wrap things up. We've only got about 13 minutes left here. Actually, around 12 because the last minute is the close. So we appreciate you calling in. We're not going to take any more calls, but please take the number down and call in next time. 515-602-9732. 515-602-9732. And I don't know if we'll be on tomorrow or the next day, but we're going to be on regularly taking calls. I think it's a great format. We may not all be here every time, but generally that's the goal, I think. We're kind of, folks, we're in unprecedented times, so all we're doing is we're just trying to put out truth the best way possible that reaches the most amount of people. And I think we'd all agree, whatever the best route to do that is, we're all on board with. Would you agree with that statement I just made, you guys?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Kelly, did you want to say anything? I know we're getting closed out here. We got, again, about 10 or 11 minutes left.
Well, I think just one thing I just want to bring up real quick, because there's a lot of talk lately about the Insurrection Act and it getting signed. And, there's some details, like when you go through the Insurrection Act, there's one piece of this that's very important, and it got extremely suppressed. And a lot of people that like myself, and I'm sure the rest of us here, were able to see was the video on the 6th where Trump actually asked everybody to just go home in peace. And that's an important part of the Insurrection Act, because before invoking the powers under the act, requires the president to first publish a proclamation ordering the insurgents to disperse as part of the Posse Act of 1878. These provisions are now codified and as amended. And that's a really important thing that a lot of people didn't see. It got so suppressed so quickly. A lot of people didn't get to see that video of him asking that. He did it. He put it out publicly. He asked them to go home in peace. We can fight, and we have another day where we can keep fighting the fight. And those days are upon us now. But that piece did occur, if anybody's questioning that. Just wanted to bring that up.
So I think, one of the things that really delights me the most, I've worked with some of the victims of CPS and family court systems for over 2 years now, and probably interviewed hundreds of parents and talked to maybe hundreds more on the phone. I think that the child trafficking pedophile empire is crumbling. I think that is the real information that they do not want to get. Voter fraud, yeah, that's not, people think, yeah, you disenfranchised my vote. Sure, that ticks people off. You robbed me from my money. Sure, that really ticks people off. But I think the revelations come out of what they've done to children. I think even some of the hardcore people on the other side are going to finally go, we can't stand behind this. Yeah. We just can't stand behind this. We support you, but we just can't support this. Go get them. These people need to be off the streets and in jail. Mm-hmm. Am I being optimistic, folks? You think I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, or do you see that happening in that sense, perhaps?
Personally, I would like to see all pedophiles face the death penalty. I mean, this is a seed that needs to be wiped out.
Yeah,
it really is. And again, I mean, I back 25 years when I first started to really comprehend how deep and how pervasive this was. And again, it wasn't just institutionalized, it was industrialized. And that is what's, and it's gone all over the globe. This is a cancer that has spread all over the planet. And the bad boys who have been participating in this, they know how bad this is. So when all of a sudden they're faced with exposure, they are desperate and they will do anything to not be exposed because they know how evil this thing is. And this is their Achilles heel. This is why Trump has been able to go around the world and basically shut this down, take control of that, because all these people have been involved with this. They know damn well that if their people in their country were to find them, what they've been doing, as George Bush Sr. said, we would be chased down and lynched.
That's right.
And I think that's what maybe, George Herbert Walker Bush, remember, he said that if the people of the country found out what we were doing, we would be chased down and either said lynched or hung. I can't remember what he said. But I do believe that he was referring to the sex trafficking network because that whole family has been involved.
Well, you look at the Franklin cover-up. I mean, this was open. No. I mean, the Boys Town and everything they did. I mean, this was... Yep. The problem was they discovered what it was and they already knew about it, but the people that were involved were so high level in the government that no one ever did anything. And why does Obama get $63,000 worth of hot dogs delivered to the White House? Has anybody ever thought about that? Does anybody have a clue?
Cheese pizza.
I mean,
you're not even supposed to have outside food delivered.
Period. You're correct. You're absolutely correct.
That's the thing right there.
That's right. You're right about that. That's right. This is for national security purposes. No outside food. Now, I don't know how they did I've seen them have events at the White House where they brought the Chick-fil-A in, where they had like the football players. But maybe that was maybe that was
Burger King and the Wendy's.
Yeah, maybe it was made there on location. Maybe they brought the chefs in to make. I don't know. But no, you're right about that. I have read that before, where there's no outside food allowed in the White House. Yet $63,000 worth of hot dogs show up. Do you have any idea how many hot dogs that is? I mean, that's more than I can even eat.
Yeah, we all know.
Right?
It's a lot. That's a lot.
So what are we going to leave the folks with here as far as solutions and things? We want to try to end on a positive note moving forward. My message would be, and we certainly can go around the room, my message is don't be fearful, right? Be angry at what they've done and how they've lied to you and how they've eat out your substance and how they've tricked you and how they've robbed you and how they've caused your sickness and disease, and they've done it with pleasure for money and power. I think that we need to stand up, and we don't mean to be fearful. We need to be angry. Righteous anger is what we need, and it is righteous anger because they've destroyed this country. They've destroyed practically civilization. So I say rise up, be heard, and stand strong, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Jason, let's go over to you.
As bad as this is going to sound, there's one key element to this. It's forgiveness.
Yes.
You have to be able to forgive all of your enemies. Even though they've done the worst of the worst, you need to forgive them for your own self, for your own karma. Because this is the only law that they go by is the law of karma. That's why in the movies, when they put the truth out there, and then they're like, oh, don't believe everything you see in the movies. Well, maybe you should, because everything in the movies is true. Everything. You just got to understand. It's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that are really mad right now, but we have to learn how to heal as well, as one humankind, human race, not black, not white, not Hispanic, not Asian. No, one human race. It's the only way we're going to go forward. Because if we don't do that, then all this is for nothing.
Kelly, what would you leave people with as far as, want to leave on a positive note and give people some action items if they can? And you know what? That's another thing too. Before I have you answer, Kelly, that helps take your mind off the day-to-day doom and gloom. Do some action. Do some stuff. I mean, even if it's nothing more than going out to like a field where there's like a picturesque scenery, and take some photos and start distributing them online just to maybe break the monotony of things a little bit. I mean, everybody can do something, even if it's nothing more than being a bad example for the rest of us. Everybody can do something. I want to just make that point real quick, Kelly, before I bumped it over to you.
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, you have to, when you're going through this process, a very difficult thing to remember is some self-love. You have to take care of yourself too, because you have to make sure that you're still strong enough to keep fighting the good fight. And the thing is it's very important, no matter what comes up, you stand in your truth. You speak your truth. It doesn't matter what the repercussions are. It doesn't matter what other people's opinions are. It is very important that you stand in your truth and you don't sway from it. No matter what it is, no matter what the ridicule is, the ridicule doesn't matter. You just let it go.
Dave vonKleist, longtime broadcaster, 9/11 researcher, former co-host on the one of the most popular radio shows, I think, Power Hour at the time. What say you? What can we leave people with? I know, like you said, we want an open hand, not a clenched fist. But what can people out there do that right now are looking, they're like reaching around the room looking for the right light switch. They can kind of turn the light on and kind of get a grasp on things. What would you tell them?
Well, I want to echo what Jason Q had said. You can't move freely into the future if you shackle yourself to the past. You have to let go of what happened, and you have to forgive. Forgive others and also forgive yourself. And I want to share with you a verse from the title cut of my third album. And by the way, if you enjoy patriotic music, politically incorrect, in your face, you lying son of a government music, go to my website, or you just go to YouTube and do a search on my name. 3 albums of this stuff. And one of the verses, then the title cut, my third album, is called Forever Vigilant. And the verse is, our country's now awakened, and our eyes are open wide. We see how they deceived us, and we know just how they lied. It's time for restoration. Yes, it's time to do what's right. And although we may not want to, if we have to, we will fight. Because we understand just why the framers warned us. Forever vigilant is what we now will be. And we're prepared to defend our Constitution. Armed with the truth, we'll defeat this tyranny.
Very good, David. Great stuff. Folks, you get it all here on this broadcast. You get latest news and information, and you get some great music. Dave is going to be eventually playing some tunes, and maybe we'll set up the lead-in where we can start playing some of your tunes, Dave, on the intros and outros. That'd be good stuff. Folks, we're just running out of time here. We only got about 1 minute left before we have to spin the end of the end tune there, the closeout. We appreciate you looking in here. We're just a group of patriots that got together. We saw a need, and we're just going to continue to move forward. And we hope you like the format with the phone calls. I think I like the phone calls. You guys like the phone call format? I think it's good.
Yeah, it's fun.
We have that.
90 seconds.
And there she is. We have that for 2 hours a day. We can do phone calls. So it may not always be the same 2 hours, but we'll try to get together. As I said, we may have other people in sometimes, guests, a co-host and things like that. There's really no rules. Whatever it takes to get the word out is what we're going to do. Appreciate you looking in, and thanks so much for my co-host Dave vonKleist, Kelli Higgins, and Jason Q Janiszewski. Thanks so much for looking in here
60
on
seconds.
Critical Disclosure
I love
Radio.
that woman.
We do appreciate it. As you can see, we're running out of time. Until next time, this is James White from Critical Disclosure Radio saying bye now.
Cheers.
10 seconds.